Hey Jim, could you come up here and keep an eye on the camera for me?
I can do that for you.
I want it to go in safe mode. Right here is, you kind of do this every once in a while, make sure it doesn't fall off the...
No, we don't want it to fall.
No. Is this good? Am I in there?
You're there.
Alright, my name is Berg, and this is my sixth assignment, my speech analysis. On January 28th of 1986, I was 18 years old and a senior in high school. I was in the study hall this day, and that's when it was decided that we would wheel a TV into the study hall so we could watch the launch of the Space Shuttle Challenger. It was supposed to be a historic event. It was the first time that a female civilian school teacher was going to go along on the ride up into space. Now, unfortunately, this was a little bit more of a historical event than what we all thought. As we found out later, the O-rings on the space shuttle failed, and the space shuttle exploded, and all the passengers on board and crew members passed away in the tragedy. We were all shocked when this happened. Eventually, all classes were stopped, and everybody was allowed to come out and watch the news and the replays of the space shuttle exploding. After it was confirmed that all the crew and passengers had perished, our president at the time, Ronald Reagan, did an address to the whole world explaining what had happened. Now, before Ronald Reagan was president of the United States, he started out as a radio sports announcer where he would reconstruct Chicago Cubs baseball games from telegraphic reports. This is where he honed his spontaneous speaking style. In 1937, he became an actor in movies and TV, minus the time frame when he was in the Army Air Corps, where he did training films during World War II. In 1966, he became governor of California, which he remained until 1975. In 1980, he ran for president of the United States and won. And in 1984, he was reelected. And he stayed in office until 1988. In radio, TV, film, and politics, a person needs very good communication skills to succeed. Watching the address President Ronald Reagan gave on TV about the space shuttle tragedy, you could tell that he possessed all of these skills. In the introduction, he explains how we were all in mourning. He personalized it by saying how him and Nancy, his wife, were pained to the core. He then used a story of how 19 years ago 3 astronauts perished on the ground, but how no astronauts had ever perished in flight until now. He spoke highly of the astronauts and really personalized it when he called them each individually by their full name. Then he went into the body of his speech. He made 3 points speaking directly to 3 different groups of people. First, he spoke directly to the family of the astronauts. He said that they should be proud and tried to soothe their pain. Then he spoke directly to the school children who watched the tragedy on TV. He spoke on their level and he tried to soothe them, but he was not condescending. He said it was part of life and part of the process of exploration and discovery. Lastly, he said that he wished he could speak to each and every one of the NASA employees to compliment them on their dedication. In his conclusion, he used another story to help people relate. He said 390 years ago to the day, an explorer by the name of Sir Francis Drake died off the coast of Panama. Historians would later say he lived by the sea, died on it, and was buried in it. The space shuttle crew was like Drake. They honored us in the way they lived their lives. In his famous final quote, he said, "They slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God." Through the whole speech, he did not look at any notes. He looked directly into the camera, which made me feel like he was speaking directly to me. I looked closely to see if he was using a teleprompter. He was not. His eyes, facial expression, and body language all showed signs of sorrow and sadness. His tone of voice also was filled with sadness. His whole speech lasted only 4 minutes and 5 seconds, but was very effective. He had a solid intro, 3 major points, and a solid conclusion. You could see how his training in radio, acting, and politics helped him not only to portray sadness, but to portray confidence to help the country move on. I can see why later reporters would call him the great communicator. Thank you. The top button.
Turn that off.
Right there.
Hmm.
This big one.